So this video is going to show you how to mod your PS3 to play all your backup games either straight off a hard drive or USB stick with cover art. Now again, this is a complete all-in-one modding guide to set up your either internal hard drive or USB. You're going to be able to set up Webman mod, Multiman, and Retroarch to play all your backup games. I'm going to show you how to do an FTP file transfer, set up a USB hard drive, and all your cover art. So all you're going to need is to download the link in the video description and extract it to your desktop. Now the file is about 2 GB big and you'll need 7-zip to unzip it. So just right click and extract right to your folder, and we're going to open it up. Now we're going to open up the CFW folder and we're going to plug in a USB stick. Now if it's under 32 GB, we're just going to make sure that it's formatted to FAT32, which we'll be able to do through our computer. If it's over 32 GB, then I've included a tool in the pack that we just downloaded, but this one isn't, so we're going to format it to FAT32. Now our USB stick has to be FAT32 for our PS3 to recognize it, and it'll only take a few seconds, but it will delete everything off your USB stick. So once we've done that, inside the folder CFW Evil NAT, which is the type of custom firmware, we're going to copy that over to our freshly formatted USB stick. Now this is only a few megabytes big, but I'm just going to fast forward it to save time. So that's going to be fairly quick, and that's pretty much all we need to do to patch and install a custom firmware onto our PS3. So we're going to go to our PS3 and get that all set up. So we're going to boot this up, and we're going to want to check out some basic settings right off the bat. Now for this mod to work, you're going to want your PS3 to be updated to a fairly recent firmware update. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the settings column and go over to system settings and scroll all the way down to the very bottom, or second to the last bottom, and do system information. Now anything over 4.82 is good. If yours is lower, we're going to jump back to the computer. So we're going to plug back in our USB stick and we're going to open up the folder PS3 and update, and you're going to see this file. Now we're going to open up the extracted folder and go into the OFW folder, and then the PS3, and then update. Now we're going to overwrite these two files. So we're going to drag and drop from our folder that we extracted to our USB, and when it asks us to overwrite, we're going to overwrite. So the one is the 4.8 update from Sony, which will update your PS3 if it's under 4.82 system firmware currently. If it isn't, you don't need to do this. So we'll jump back to our PS3, and since I'm at 4.88, we're all good. Next step is we're going to set up our internet connection. So we're going to go down to our connection settings. We're going to open that. We're going to go to custom, a wired connection. So you want to have a Ethernet cable directly plugged into your PS3, and we're just going to scroll through all these settings and leave it to default. We're going to test the connection, make sure it's all working, and there we go. Now again, you actually want to have a hardwired connection. Now we're going to scroll over to our network column and to our browser, and triangle should bring up the settings folder, and we're going to go to the tools and then the home page. We're going to use a blank page, then we're going to press triangle again, go back to the tools, and we're going to delete the cache. Once you do that, you're going to press start, and you're going to want to type in H and then TTPS and then ps3exploit.com. Once you've typed that in, press start, and it should bring you to this web page. Now you're going to go over to the flash writer and click the first and only setting, and when the plugin pages come up, click yes. Now sometimes it doesn't work on the first attempt. Here you can see it didn't work, so we're going to close the browser and do it again. Now you don't need to delete the cache or set your home page, just press start and type in the address again. I like to use the shortcuts on the side. Press start, and then again to the flash writer and the only setting. Those plugin pages, just make sure you always click yes. And when it boots up, don't do anything. You can see once you get this screen, you're able to go to the flash memory tab. Click that, and it's going to download a plugin. Now we could scroll down to the bottom, and you want to click the flash memory patch. We want to load patch via HTTPS. So it's going to download the patch. This should only take a few minutes. And there we go. We're going to close this screen, and then we're going to click the flash memory patch again, and we're going to apply loaded patch. Now you may think your PS3 is frozen up because it's going to stay on this screen for about 5 or 10 minutes. Just let it do its thing. If it stays on the screen for more than a half an hour, then just restart your PS3 and do all the steps over again. But this has worked fine, and it says we can now restart our PS3, so that's exactly what I just did. So now that your PS3 is freshly restarted, way over to the settings, and we're going to select update PS3. Now it's going to scan our PS3 USB, and it's going to see the file that we copied over earlier. So we don't want it to turn off, so we're just going to select OK and let the PS3 do its thing. Right now it's just copying over all the files, or only the update file from your USB right to the PS3 hard drive. If you were to get an error, it's most likely on that screen. Now I've cut out the whole updating process because it's fairly boring, but it only takes about 10 minutes. So now the PS3 is fully updated with a custom firmware. So you can see we got a couple other options down here, and we're going to select Package Manager. Want to select Install Package Files, and we're going to do it from Standard USB drive. We're going to press triangle and then X on Install All Packages. Now this is going to take quite a while, so I've cut this out, but it's going to be about a half an hour. Once it's complete, you're going to see all these new applications, but we're going to scroll right down to the very bottom and go to Webman mod. And as you can see, what you want to do when you're installing it is hold down the L1 trigger. So we're going to hold down L1 and press X, and until you see this screen, release L1. Now when that's completed installing, your PS3 will restart, and then you should see a notification on the top right corner that Webman mod has installed. Now it's not fully installed yet, so we're going to go back to the game column, and we're going to scroll down until you see the option run this. Press X, and it's going to do the final step to install Webman. So it's just copying over the last few files that it needs to be fully set up, and it should only take a couple minutes. Then it'll restart your PS3, and you can see you got a couple more options, Webman games being the main one that we wanted. So now what we're going to do is hold down select, and we're going to take note of the IP address and jump over to our PS3 to get our games up and running, whether it wants to be on a USB stick or if you want to transfer them right over to a hard drive. Now if you're plugging in a USB drive, it's probably larger than 32 gigabytes, but you still want it to be formatted to FAT32. Now if you right click, and you can see there's no option for FAT32. So I have included a tool in the pack that we extracted. So we're going to open that up, and we're going to go over to the tools section, and we're going to go open up GUI format. Now it'll make sure you've selected the USB drive that you want, and this will format it to FAT32. Now this will work up to 2 terabytes, and it'll only take a couple minutes to format. Now once that's done, we're going to open up the extracted folder and open up USB, and we're going to copy over all these folders right over to our freshly formatted USB drive. Now these are just a whole bunch of folders that the PS3 looks for, and then it'll look inside these folders for the games. Now for the games, I've got them nicely organized here, and we're going to start off with PS3. So we're going to open up the PS3, and there's 2 types of files. They could either be in ISO format, or they could be in folder format. Now in ISO format, most of them are going to be larger than 4 gigabytes, which it is the file limit for FAT32. So as you can see, if we try to transfer it over, it's just going to give us errors. So these ones we're going to have to transfer over to our PS3 hard drive. Now the best way to do that is through FTP, but I have included over a PS3 file splitter if you need. But we're going to copy over the folder format games right over to the games folder. Now you're going to do that with any PS3 folder format games. Just copy them right over to the games folder on your USB stick or your PS3 hard drive later on. So depending on how big they are, that'll take about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to do. Now as you probably already know, the PS3 has a pretty good emulator for PS1 and PS2 games, but also the PSP. So as you can see here, most of the games I've got are in ISO format or bin.q format. So PS1 games have to be in bin.q, PS2 has to be in ISO, and PSP has to be in CSO, I believe. So for your cover art to work, we're going to want to open up in the tools folder file renamer for PS1 games and PS2 games. So you're going to open up the application, and you're going to navigate to the folder wherever you got your PS1 games, and this is going to add the game ID tag to each game it finds in there. It'll rename both bin and queue, so just make sure it's set to PS1 and click start renaming. Now, you don't have to do this step, but it'll just make the cover art work. Now for PS2, select PS2 and then navigate to the PS2 folder, and again it's going to rename every ISO it finds just with the game ID in front of it. Now you could also select PSP if you have any. Now you should select the configuration settings before, because as you can see I've set the folder, but it'll switch. So again, select the folder. Mine is on the desktop, so it's fairly easy to navigate to. And then start renaming. Now, the PS3 won't show these numbers that it adds. I'll show you the numbers that it adds onto the files. So as you can see, the PS2, it just adds the game ID in front of it. And then for PS1, it does the same thing. Now for PSP, as you can see, I had cover art in there before, and it renamed the cover art as well too. So for USB support, it'll work for PS1 and PSP games, but not for PS2 games. Those have to be on a PS3 hard drive. So if you want your USB stick copy over whatever games you want. For PSPs, it goes into the PSP ISO folder. And again, this will take a few minutes depending on the size of the files that you have. And then for PSP, you're going to want, or PS1, you're going to want to put that into the PSX ISO. So I'm going to select all and just drag and drop. Now again, to save time, I'm just going to cut over or cut out the file transfer time. And there we go. So once all that is finished, transferred over, your USB is going to be set up. You could also transfer over the ROMs, but to get the ROMs set up, you're going to want to have the cover art. So if you have cover art, I've included a tool because the cover art has to be renamed as exactly as the file of whatever your ROMs. So I'm going to use Game Boy Color as an example. So I'm going to take all my ROMs from Game Boy Color and paste it into the ROMs folder and then Game Boy Color folder on the USB stick. Now if you got cover art, which I do, I'm going to open it up and I gotta pick Game Boy Color so you can see. I'm going to leave these two folders open. Then I'm going to open up the extracted folder that we have, go open tools, and then go to the fuzzy renamer. Now you see it's files to rename, which would be our cover art, and we're going to click the browse button. Now I like to copy the address in file browser and just paste because it's easier. And then you're going to want to click the USB, right click, copy address because it's easier, and that's the ROMs folder. So paste. So this is going to match up your cover art with your ROMs as best as it can, and then rename your cover art to the ROMs folder or ROMs file. Then you're going to want to tell it where you want to paste the newly named files, which is going to be the same place as you put your ROMs, which is in the ROMs and then whatever ROM type you have, which in this case is Game Boy Color. And then you're going to press go. And you'll see that this will copy over all those files and rename it so that they're exactly the same. And this will match up the cover art in the PS3. So we're going to close up everything, but that'll get all the cover art working on your PS3. Now I'm going to show you how to set up an FTP file transfer onto your PS3, which will access your PS3's hard drive and allow you to copy files directly over to it. So we're going to install FileZilla, which is in the tools folder on the pack I've included, and we're going to launch it once it's finished installing. So now, as remember the IP address that we wrote down from your PS3, we're going to type that into the host tab. So for me it was that, and then we're going to click quick connect. So this will work as long as you're connected to the same Wi-Fi router that your PS3 is connected to. And now HDD0 is our PS3's hard drive. Now you can see it has pretty much the same folder structure, but plus a few more folders as our USB. So anything that you just copied over to your USB, you can copy over directly onto your PS3. So one thing that will only work on a PS3 is PS2 games. They will not work running off a USB. So we're going to copy over all our ISOs directly over to the PS2 ISO folder. Now I've already done this, that's why it prompted up that dialog for whether I wanted to overwrite. Now I find that the file transfer process always freezes if you're transferring over a lot of files. So a lot of time you're going to have to right click on the failed transfers reset and process and recreate all, and then into the queued tab, you right click and click process queue. Now it'll prompt you to overwrite files that are partially copied over, so I always click only overwrite if different size and apply it to the transfer. So that's pretty much it for setup for your games. So we're going to jump back to our PS3, and you can plug in your USB stick or drive, and then we're going to scroll over to the game column, and already a few of them have popped up. So we're going to look, and we can see all the cover art is nicely there for all our PS3 games that we got on our USB stick. And then you can see our PS2 games that are on the PS2 hard drive. And you can see the PS1 games, and as well as the PSP games. See, the ROMs haven't shown up yet, and most of the time that is the case. Webman is a little buggy at times, so what you want to do is you go all the way up to this Webman setup, and you want to go down to refresh Webman and games. Press X and give it a few seconds, and it'll restart your PS3, and you can see that it'll pop up now. So we're going to scroll down, and you can see all our games are there. We'll go down to ROMs, and I added a few more, as you can see, but the ones that we did were Game Boy Color, and there's all the cover art associated with most of the games. So Webman is pretty good for launching your backups, but I've also included another app called Multiman, which is also an extremely good app. So you're going to go down to Multiman and launch that. And on the first boot, it's going to take up to 5 minutes to fully set up, but afterwards it'll boot up a lot quicker. So again, it's going to let you know that it's been around for around 10 years. But this is a good way to back up your games. So as you can see all our PS3 games are showing quite nicely here. But if you press triangle, you'll get a few more options that you won't get on Webman. One being copy. Now you can see you could either choose a USB stick or a hard drive, but if you had a game disc installed right now or in your PS3, you could copy that either to a USB or your hard drive. So this app is pretty cool, but you could explore it on your own. We're just going to exit out of here. Now I've also included a few other features, one being the ultimate toolbox. Now if you want to change cold boots and other things on your PS3 like themes, this is a good way to do it. There's a few other things that I don't even know about in here, but it's all included. So hopefully this video has helped you out. If it has, press like. Yeah, have a good one and subscribe.